Eye Opener for September 13th, 2024. Wealth Inequality, the American Way. When funneling wealth from the majority of your people to a minority of your fellow citizens represents the American dream, or American nightmare, depending on which side you find yourself. Or when wealth inequality is as American as apple pie and baseball, the America that your parents and grandparents knew, loved, fought, and sometimes died for, no longer exists. When the wealthy act more like kleptomaniacs than responsible, patriotic citizens, your economy doesn't even represent a healthy or sustainable system under which a nation can thrive, let alone survive. I offered up this analogy because it doesn't seem as if the rich can stop themselves at this point. Like the kleptomaniac who steals more for the thrill of getting away with the theft than out of any necessity for the item being pilfered. After all, to live a comfortable existence in the United States today, even with the high inflation, an individual would only need, let's say, $5 million. I know I just plucked that number out of thin air, but how many of you listening to this would agree that $5 million would be a sufficient amount to live on, even for a family of 4? So, let's stay on this $5 million figure as adequate for life in America. If $5 million were enough on which to live, why would one strive for 10 million? If life is good with 5, just go and live your best life, because it can't be that your life depends on external material goods to be a happy one. While having money does secure your financial future, it can't make you happy. Think about it. If money did make you happy, once you acquired enough to last you the rest of your life, you should be happy. But in today's America, we have people whose wealth exceeds this $5 million floor to the tune of 10 million, 100 million, 1,000 million, which is a billion, by the way. Yet they want more. Could you live off of $1 billion? Hell, you, your children, their children, and several generations of your family could live off $1 billion. But we have super wealthy people who are trying to accumulate much more than $1 billion. Oprah Winfrey alone is worth $3 or $4 billion, but she only offered 10 million for the families who lost their homes in Maui. I know this sounds like a lot, but it's equivalent to you buying a coffee from Starbucks, which, by the way, fewer people are able to do in America. Oprah donating $10 million represents 0.3% of her wealth. In comparison, if your take-home pay every 2 weeks was $2,500, 0.3% would be approximately $8. In this coffee scenario, why would you donate the equivalent of a Starbucks coffee, then ask people who only make 5 cents every 2 weeks to donate? Yet, this is the equivalent of Oprah asking a person earning the average American salary to donate as well to the victims of the fires. And don't misunderstand me, I'm not telling you to not donate to help those people. This example is to show how little Oprah cares about them. Oprah has no shame, nor does she really care about the people who lost everything in those fires in Maui. Maybe she doesn't realize how absurd it is to request money from Americans facing a collapsing economy. Even though someone with $3 to $4 billion would definitely have the resources to study and understand the negative impact that having so much wealth has on so many people, Oprah is probably surrounded by people who would never draw attention to such a negative aspect of her wealth. Imagine one of Oprah's financial advisors, a one with integrity, pointing out how many people must suffer for her to achieve and retain her wealth. I think that conversation might sound roughly like this. Miss Winfrey, your wealth is such that you could give 23 million Americans the equivalent of the average salary in America, which is $64,000, and you would still have $1.5 billion. And I can only imagine the Oprah-esque response that this financial advisor would receive. You get a new job. But Miss Oprah, you get a new job. But Miss Oprah, you have more than enough. And you get a new job because this one no longer exists for you. Now, I know this topic is more nuanced than the example I provided, but it's not as complicated as they want to make it seem. Let's look at war. Who benefits from that? In Ukraine, they've wiped out an entire generation of young men. How did those young men benefit? I think abiding by the 3 demands Russia put on the table to avoid war was a much better choice than destroying an entire generation. Just think about it. Ukraine no longer has the male half of Gen Z. If by some miracle they do win their war, the Ukrainian women of Gen Z will have the rights to their rare earth minerals. No, wait. Those rights have been sold off to international corporations already. So how exactly does the death of an entire generation of men benefit Ukraine? For that matter, how does it benefit Americans? Are those international corporations going to share the wealth with Americans? Or, as is customary, are they simply going to use them to profit off our labor as we work till death do we part? In 2018, Chris Osman wrote a book highlighting the problems humanity would face if more power, wealth, and control were funneled to a small group of individuals, groups, or organizations. In that book, Mr. Osman provided solutions, from himself and others, to the inevitable problems we would all face. In it, he also provided a means for the public to analyze, compare, and contrast the words and deeds of those we've chosen to follow against our real-world experiences. To this end, Mr. Osman provides the means for readers to disseminate information as provided by their news sources of choice, their elected officials, and any other authority they choose to follow. The book, titled Solutions, Enough Complaining. Let's Fix America, offers a means to hold leaders up, not just to a higher standard than is currently accepted, but to one that will improve lives. Click the link below and get your copy today.